Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and we are live at 83weeks.com. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself, the only man to put Vince McMahon down for the count. Not for a week, not for a month, not for a quarter, but for 83 weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Eric Bischoff. Eric, how are you, man?
It's just been a great day. I got up 4:30 this morning, and every hour seems to be getting just a little bit better than the one that preceded it. So, yeah. Oh, and by the way, it's 75 degrees and sunny with no wind here in Wyoming today. So that in and of itself is cause for celebration.
We are going to have a lot of fun today. Of course, we are live at 83weeks.com. That is our free YouTube. If you haven't already, I want to encourage you, go hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications bell. You'll never miss us the next time we're live, days like today. By the way, since we are live, if you're with us, you can ask Eric almost anything you want. Eric, there's lots of rumor and innuendo out there. There's lots of stuff I want to jump into. Of course, we do have a topic today, but I think the man behind the curtain, our producer, is Dave Silva. Dave, can you turn your audio on so we can hear you? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So, Dave, last week when we went live here, we were supposed to be talking about Thunder. And somehow, some way, Eric Bischoff managed to answer all the live questions, and we never even got to Thunder.
Oh.
And I felt like that was, his strategy. So I just knew today we would be talking about Thunder, but I see in my notes that, in fact, we're talking about WCW video games and licensing. Can you explain to me, Silva, how we went from talking about Thunder to WCW video games?
Well, I think my love for video games might have played factors.
Wait. So Eric had nothing to do with this. This is all you.
Well, I know Eric likes to talk about the business of the wrestling business. That's why it's WCW video games and licensing. So Eric gets to talk about business.
Listen, that sounds like it really does sound like a good idea, but we have our notes in our show prep for Thunder. Are you sure that he didn't maybe drop a check in the mail or something? I really wanted to cover Thunder.
Well, I just was reminded that there was a name under 83 weeks.
There's a name on the show, and it is, in fact, not mine. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 83 Weeks. We're excited to be talking about video games today. And we're going to be taking your questions. If you've got a question for Eric, keep them coming. Eric, we're going to have a lot of fun today, but right at the top of the show, I want to mention that WWE has announced their Hall of Fame legacy inductees this week, and it's got people talking a little bit. You're familiar with some of these folks. Ivan Koloff, Dory Funk Sr., and Kamala will all join the WWE Hall of Fame this year. And I know that these are, no doubt about it, bona fide megastars in the wrestling business. But I am curious, did you have any stories about any of these fellows? I know you didn't meet Dory Funk Sr. Did you ever meet Ivan Koloff?
I believe I did just as I was breaking into the business. I think he came through AWA. Or perhaps he was in AWA, he worked in AWA, and I went as a fan to see him before I ever went to work for Vern. It was a minute ago, so I'm not sure which of those is, but I feel like I briefly met him.
Yeah, that would be interesting to think about because, what a career he had. If you're not familiar with the career he had, just what he was able to do with the WWF. Some really historic spots. And as if that's not enough, of course, if you grew up like I did, watching some Jim Crockett promotions and WCW, he was such a big part. But Kamala, now that's someone you definitely worked with in WCW, right, Eric?
Yeah, I don't remember much. I didn't really work directly with him. I didn't negotiate his deal and all of that. So there was not a lot of interaction between myself and Kamala. But yeah, definitely. It's just so cool. I love the fact that WWE is doing this. I'm going to be at the Hall of Fame, and I've been saying for years at this time of year, right before WrestleMania, that to me personally, WrestleMania is the highlight of WrestleMania weekend, especially if you get an opportunity to be there live. And I know that's that's a tough ticket to get. But man, it's just so cool because the emotions are high. Everybody's kind of in the right frame of mind and excited and looking forward to guys just getting their nod. It's a really important thing to them, many of them. And just to be in that room surrounded by all those people that are vibing all the same way is a fun experience. I'm really looking forward to next Friday night in Las Vegas. Lori and I are both going to be there, and I can't wait.
By the way, we will be live next Sunday night, immediately following night 2 of WrestleMania. Make plans to join us here at 83weeks.com. When the final curtain falls on WrestleMania, will Cody Rhodes still be our world champion? Will John Cena have broken Ric Flair's record? Will he be a new 17-time world champion? We'll talk about it all, soup to nuts, next Sunday, right here at 83weeks.com. So hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications bell. You know, a quick little search, Eric. I did find that it looks like Mr. Koloff only worked one show with the AWA in 1990, but you probably would have been there for that one.
I would have been there. I worked there then, so that would have been it.
And it turns out that I can't believe this is real, but sometimes it's interesting to take a look with the benefit of hindsight. 30 years ago, the Dungeon of Doom, which at the time was a tag team comprised here on Worldwide of Kamala and Zodiac. So Brutus the freaking Barber Beefcake was tag teaming with Kamala on Worldwide in October of 95 against an enhancement talent named Terry Morgan. And somehow, some way, I believe this was Kamala's last match in WCW. Scott D'Amore was an opponent working as a talent. Isn't that a fun little trivia note?
Who booked that? Hey, Kevin, what the hell were you thinking?
I love that. We, of course, we're all talking about WrestleMania. It feels like the entire world is talking about WrestleMania. Really specifically, there's been a lot of heat poured on a promo that we heard last week on SmackDown with Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. There's been major buzz around that segment. Lots of conspiracy theorists, lots of rumor and innuendo, lots of people saying this was scripted and that was a shoot and what was supposed to happen and is there real heat? A lot of people are confused that Tiffany, who I believe is the babyface, got in a kind of a heelish line, but then threw the microphone down and then ran away. And I just thought, that's weird. Like, we know that in the whole Cena, Cody, Rock thing, Cody was the babyface. So he said, hey, Rock, go F yourself, and sort of puffed his chest out, and he was ready for what came. To have the babyface, I think it's the babyface, get a line in like this and then scurry away felt weird. And maybe that's where some of the speculation came from, Eric. What'd you make of this segment?
I don't think too deep beyond what I see and feel. In other words, I'm not interested in the conspiracy theories and all the internet chatter from people that have no idea what they're talking about. But they project in whatever they want to project in order to get a reaction from social media because that validates them and it makes them feel important. I just thought it was awkward. I know I'm often criticized for just putting WWE over at every opportunity, and truthfully, I do because there's not a lot to criticize. This interview may be the exception. It just, for whatever reason, and it could be something just as innocuous as the fact that they just don't really have any chemistry. They haven't worked together long enough. Perhaps they didn't get time to really work through this the way you would like to. Or perhaps, and more likely, Tiffany's green. Regardless of the content of that interview, she was really forced, and it felt very awkward, and she felt to me, now this is from a producer's perspective. You're kind of reading body language. You're listening to the pace of the delivery, right? If it's very mechanical, almost like an AI voice, that's nerves. That's just somebody that's trying so hard not to forget what to say that whatever they do say comes out very choppy and just unnatural. That's what I took from Tiffany. I think that things started falling apart, and for whatever reason, and let me be the first to tell you, you've heard about ring rust. We all kind of know what that is because it's relatable to any other sport, right? If you haven't swung a golf club in 2 years and you go out to play, 18 holes competitively, you're going to know it. Or any other sport. Wrestling, obviously the same when it comes to the physical part. We can all relate to that. Here's the part that you can't relate to unless you've been in the spot, and that's out there live in front of people, remembering what is often, or having at your control, so to speak, what is often a fairly heavy dose of narrative, right? For live. Most of the time, they all handle it well. This time they didn't, for whatever reason. And my first thought before I even heard, I don't know what the drama is backstage. I just don't care. It's not interesting to me. It's just not where my head goes, right? But again, producer Eric says, she's not ready for that kind of pressure. Charlotte's been off for a while, and she's got her own version of ring rust. Not physically, but until you've been in that spot and stood there on top of a little box, like a top of a wedding cake, surrounded by, 10, 15, 20,000 people, you might not know how that feels. I do. When I was in NXT, am I talking too much? Should I shut up?
No, not at all.
When I did my little appearance in NXT in December, I was out there in the middle of the ring with Ridge Holland, and I can't remember the name of his opponent at that time. And, my promo was pretty easy. There was nothing complicated about it. In fact, it looked so easy on paper that I went, okay, got this. Not quite like that, but I probably spent a half hour or so looking at it off and on because it wasn't that much. And number two, when I was doing it every week, I could look at a promo like that. It was about a 5-minute promo. And that's, tennis match, right? Going back and forth. A 5-minute promo, I could look at it for about 3 minutes and have it word for word if I needed to. So I spent about a half hour. I realized, I haven't done this in a while. Let's make sure. Don't want to go out there and screw it up. Boom, I had it. I rehearsed it in front of people. I rehearsed it in front of Shawn Michaels. He wanted to hear it. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to challenge myself a little bit instead of me just talking to myself in my room. I felt like I had it. And if you go back and watch it, you'll see it. I'm about halfway through, and I could not for the life of me remember my line. And Ridge couldn't react to me until I delivered it. Keep in mind, he's in developmental. So, and what probably was a couple seconds, which I tried to camouflage by pretending I was working the crowd while I was going, where in the hell am I? Ridge, to his credit, saw what was going on, and he jumped in and improvised and got us through the rest of the promo, and we didn't miss a beat. And it ended exactly the way it was supposed to end. He saved my ass. So, and gee, I've only been doing this at a pretty high level for over 30 years, and I froze up like it was the first or second time I ever did it. I only say that because I do think Charlotte struggled. We know she can cut a promo, so it's not like, gee, has she forgotten how? What happened? What happened is she hasn't done it in a while. On top of that, Tiffany's green, and it unraveled. That's my take.
I'm seeing some comments saying that in our live chat here at 83weeks.com, hey, Charlotte was shook. I think that's the first time she's been in the ring where they piped in boos. I mean, granted, she's got plenty of heat, but she did get the Dom Mysterio treatment where every time the mic came up, she booed. I guess the other big thing that a lot of people are discussing is they're saying, well, Charlotte went off script first. And I think that's interesting because it feels like a lot of the internet believes that. but the segment they're referencing was 2 weeks prior, and it was a pre-taped promo. Eric, if someone went off script in a pre-tape, would that make air?
No, not if it was detrimental to the promo.
Right.
If it added to the promo, they would keep it. They would go, oh, good pick.
Right.
Because that happens sometimes too, where you'll look at a script and you'll tweak it up just a little bit. You run it by the producer, they'll run tape, and if they go, I like that better. Got to be careful with. That's why I say, I mean, look, it's kind of entertaining, I guess, if you've got a lot of time on your hands, just to read some of the stuff and the fabrication and the delusion that sometimes it's just flat out funny, but it's getting to the point where it's more sad than funny. So I don't look at it as much anymore. But yes, I stay away from that. I just look at what's most likely to be true. You've got a green piece of talent, and you've got one that hasn't been in the ring with a mic in a long time. There you go. You could actually bet on that. Like if there were odds, if you knew a promo and you knew who was in it, and you had some background information, you could sit back and go, Charlotte Flair hasn't had a microphone in her hand in 6 months. Well, she hasn't been involved in a program in a while. And then the girl she's in there with, having a rap battle, she's greener than goose shit. She doesn't have a lot of experience. I'm going to bet on, that'd be an easy bet.
I do want to ask you a little bit about going off script, but before we do, I want to go on script about Mando, because I'm such a big believer in this product, and I know you are too, Eric. Mando is whole body deodorant that's safe to use anywhere on your body. And when we say anywhere, we mean it. Yeah, even your undercarriage, all of it. You know what we're talking about. Even your feet. You see, Mando was created by a doctor who I know actually went to the same school as Eric Bischoff. And there's a rumor out there that I read in the Observer that Dave Meltzer has it on good authority that Eric's crotch stank so bad in high school that it became legendary up and down the halls of that high school. And this doctor said, I'm going to get to the root of it. She understood and made it her life's mission. I mean, she has dedicated her entire career to figuring out how BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. And now she's come up with a plan designed, according to the legend, specifically for Eric Bischoff to block odor all day long and control it for up to 72 hours. Mando deodorant is offered as a solid stick and as a spray deodorant. Now, the spray deodorant is the one I'm here to brag about. It's aluminum free. It's ideal for those hard to reach places, especially if you've got those little baby T-Rex arms like Dave Silva. This is for you. Now, if you're looking for the solid stick deodorant, look no further. Mando's has been formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it even starts. No matter what you choose, all of Mando's products are baking soda free and paraben free, and you've got a bunch of great scents, things like bourbon leather and clover woods and Mount Fuji and Pro Sport. It's been clinically proven to control odor better than just a shower with soap alone. And if you're ready to try America's #1 whole body deodorant, you can find it now in Walmart, Target, and in other retailers across the country. For the best deals, go right now to shopmando.com. And that's where you'll find Mando Starter Pack. It's perfect for new customers. It comes with that solid stick deodorant, the cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash or the deodorant wipes. You'll even get free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers can get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% of your starter pack when you use the code 83weeks at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. To smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
You were talking about Dr. Shannon Klingman is the gynecologist that created Mando. She lives in the same town that I lived in Minnesota. Go Skippers! So maybe that story you just told is true. I don't know.
I don't think your legendary nut stank really inspired Mando, but it'd be a good story if it did.
It would also be a good argument for a piece of the action. Hey, Shannon!
Look at you. Always thinking. Hey, so listen, we are going to talk about our topic today, which is WCW video games and licensing. But we're talking a little bit about going off script. And I think that's one of the things that has made some legendary promos through the years, because we as fans, what we really want, I mean, we're in on the joke. We're in on the gag. We get what wrestling is. But we like to point to things, Eric, and we like to say, hey, I know what wrestling is, but that was real. So there's a lot of people who've decided, hey, this is all the work and this was an elaborate plan and all of that as a way to sort of get some interest in this match. Because I think everyone agrees on paper, maybe a couple of years ago, it did feel like a WrestleMania dream match maybe one day, but in execution, the build maybe has been but everyone was at least talking about it over the last week. Is there a line in going off script? I've seen some people online who are jumping up and down saying, oh, Charlotte deserved it, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's interesting because some of those same people are the ones who are saying, yay, wrestling's for everyone, mental health, except for Charlotte, F her. Urgh. I don't know how to reconcile that. But I do think there is a line, and I'm wondering, is the line if it's about real life stuff and not your character stuff, or is everything open game? Where do you land on that?
It's very individual to me. And I've done it really, really well, and I've done it really, really poorly. I've had great results, and I've had disasters, and enough in between that I feel like nobody's an expert on anything really. They just think they are. But I have a pretty good handle on this one because I've run the gamut. It all depends on the people involved. And here's where it sounds easy, right? Oh, it's just up to them. They feel good about it. Do it. It'll be great. It's real life. It's a shoot. The problem is when you've got talent, they want to do the best job they can do. They don't want to disappoint the producer or the who's ever asking them, in authority. They don't want to say, oh, I'd really, really rather not go there because what kind of a team player are you? In a very, very competitive environment where whether it's fair or not, or outward or not, bias exists. And if you come off as someone that's kind of a prima donna when it comes to trying to bring a reality to the table, you probably won't get a lot of opportunities to do that in the future. That's just a reality. That's human nature, unfortunately. So what do people do? Even though they don't feel comfortable, deep down inside, they don't really want to do it, but they don't want to say no, and they do. And it's harder for them than they think, or it hurts more than they think, or embarrasses them more than they think, or it affects family members more than they considered. They hadn't played it out. And then there's backlash at home. That messes everything up. Because now you've got at least one of your two parties who really, really don't want to do this. So guess how well they're going to do it? They're stuck now. They said yes. Now what? And it usually goes downhill. The other side of that coin is depending on what the issue is that's being exposed, if you've got two people that are eager to do it and you can feel it, they're not just trying to sell you. You have to believe them, knowing that they're going to try to sell you because they want a favor, they want an opportunity, they want to disappoint. So yeah, you got to feel it. But if you got two people that are chomping at the bit to do it, bet all your money on it. But if you're not sure they're really into it, stay away from it. Come up with something better.
That's kind of what I thought. I mean, it feels like, again, what do I know? I'm not a wrestler, but I've always been led to believe that the in-ring stuff, hey, that whole thing is built on trust. I'm trusting you with my body to not dump me on my head and get me hurt and all that sort of thing. Well, it feels like we've got to have some trust about things we won't talk about. I mean, even when we've done roasts before, Eric, we would ask the talent, hey, is there anything that's sort of off limits? And that's not uncommon. And there are certain things that have happened in major stars' lives, whether we're saying the biggest of the stars like Hulk Hogan or Steve Austin on down the line, where there has been a sensitivity that maybe we don't go there. Maybe we don't talk about it. Maybe they're not comfortable with that. And if someone goes over that line, it feels like well, that trust has been breached. And I think sometimes we as fans, we kind of want to believe that sort of thing. So whether it was a work or it was a shoot, no matter what it was, I think people are more excited to see the match now as a result. And people are going to want to see it when it happens. Like, hey, is that a live round? Like when we heard about Matt Hardy and Edge, when we heard about Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle or whatever, people are going to be looking like, ooh, there was the real punch. I mean, that's what people are ready for now. Right, Eric?
So, you hit on something really, really important. And it's easy to gloss over it and just move on. But let's just fantasy. Ooh, I'm not even going to say the word. Let's just play out another scenario. That's a better way. In a scenario where your producer, who's ever calling a shot, let's say it's Bruce Pritchard. It's probably not, but let's just say it is. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Who knows? Whoever it is sees these two people and knows they have it in them. You don't just all of a sudden develop the ability of a Mick Foley or Steve Austin or Ric Flair. It doesn't work that way. You've got to get there over time. So if you never get the opportunity to do it, how are you ever going to get there over time? If no one gives you that first shot and the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth, because some of them are going to suck. But if you don't get some reps in with this style of a promo, how are you ever going to get good at it? There's a huge argument back in the 80s and the 90s, and maybe even today, I don't know, about how the territories used to really be a developmental territory eventually for WWE, in the sense that these guys learned how to go out and cut promos. They had to make money doing it, and they got good at it. So when they finally made it to WWF at the time, a lot of them came through all the different territories, but those guys learned how to do it in front of people and live and be able to improv, like really improv, like Ali Shuffle improv in the 15th round. And then they brought that skill to television. Well, that doesn't really exist anymore. Those opportunities to get those reps with a mic in your hand in front of a crowd live where you learn to improv, they're gone. So where are you going to get a chance to develop it? Now go back to Bruce Pritchard. He looks over and sees Charlotte. Oh, I know she's got it in her. And he believes that Tiffany does too. She may be green, but if he sees potential in her, guess what he's going to do? He's going to give him a shot. Now, I'm not saying that happened. It probably, unlikely, nothing remotely close to that happened. But keep in mind, when you see something that feels awkward, and then guess what? Everybody's reading into it. Everybody's talking about it, Conrad. That's your point. All of a sudden, this awkward interview that maybe it was a shoot, or maybe it wasn't. Who's the third man? Same thing. You're getting people talking. Guess what talking creates? Interest. So you never really know. I go back to my first thesis, that being, she's been off. The other one's green. It fumbled in the middle somewhere, and neither one of them knew how to pick it up and take control of it. They went immediately tit for tat, and it just was what it was. But whatever.
We're all going to watch. We're all interested.
There
Because
you
as
go.
a friend of mine once said, controversy creates cash. Let's talk about another WrestleMania match, and then we are going to be moving into our topic. I want to talk a little bit about Gunther and Jey Uso. This is another match that people have been, and everybody acknowledged this last year or so, Jey Uso has been on a tear. I saw more little kids dressed up like Jey Uso this year than any other wrestler. He's over like Rover. You can just see the reactions and know that. But it's weird sometimes, this WWE fan base. We want it, we want it, we want it. No, never mind. We changed our mind. And it feels like that's what's happening with Jey Uso. And even guys like Kevin Nash have been critical of Jey. So it feels like a lot of people were like, hey, we hear you. He's over, but we didn't really want this. But now they've turned the heat up on it. I mean, we saw blood involved in this angle, and now there's some more storytelling. But recently, the world champion Gunther was on the Ariel Helwani show, and he shared his thoughts about Triple H being in charge. And, of course, he's here to plug WrestleMania. But this one bit I'd like for you to take a listen to here, Eric.
Sure.
That as well, maybe. So how would you describe working for Paul? How would you describe working for, him as the leader, his vision, the way he does things differently than the previous regime?
Well, I would say to a degree, and obviously he's my boss, and I'm in a very good position at the company right now, but I think to a certain degree that, he saved professional wrestling to a big degree, I think.
Wow.
Because, when I remember when I started, 2005, I started, and all the Europeans that kind of like tried to get into WWE, it was such a mystery about it, like who to talk to and what to do. It seemed so far away, such an unrealistic point to achieve. And Hannah was the one that pushed for opening that world to WWE and created so many jobs and opportunities back then for so many of the guys, like for us, for all the European guys. But then in general, it's just, he opened the floodgates for the wrestling world outside of WWE, and I think that's since then the change has been very positive, and I think that was a big achievement, to be honest, because the business changed since then, and it changed to the better. I think it's the hardest that it is right now, and that all started back then when he started NXT and started working more with guys that worked on the indies before and stuff like that.
What do you think, Eric? Did Triple H save wrestling?
From Gunther's point of view, he did, and I think Gunther made some really, really good points. If opening up the floodgates, as Gunther put it, meaning more people working, better opportunities, more independent promotions around the world, if that's what Gunther's referring to from his perspective, then who's going to argue with that? That's how the business grows. That's called evolution. You're either growing or you're dying. That's growing. And I get, when I first heard that headline, it's like, what? He saved wrestling? I mean, it's a bit of a stretch. But if you put yourself in Gunther's shoes and you see the world from his perspective, he's right. I think Triple H is responsible for a tremendous amount of growth in WWE. And I think NXT has been a big part of that. And I think it's just seeing the tip of the iceberg in terms of what that show will yield in terms of benefits to WWE, Braun Breaker, and a whole bunch more ready to come out to play. So I think from his perspective, he's right. I think that's a pretty broad. Overall was if Paul would have got snatched up by aliens and taken off to another planet to start a wrestling company on Jupiter, I think WWE would still be here. So, and wrestling would still be here. But I also got what he meant. And by the way, what a class act. That man is a class act.
Well, let's talk about WrestleMania together. We're going to be doing it live right here at 83weeks.com immediately following night 2 of WrestleMania. So go ahead and turn on your notifications bell so you won't miss us when the final curtain falls on WrestleMania. If you're curious, Jeff Jarrett and I will be live on night 1. So immediately following night 1, we'll be with Double J over at myworldpod.com. But of course, the main event, by God, Cody Rhodes and John Cena. That's what everyone's going to be talking about at the water cooler on Monday. And Eric Bischoff and I are going to be live chatting with you. We're also taking your live questions. But of course, last week we had some live questions we didn't get to. Eric, I'm going to try to get through as many of these as we can before we jump into our topic today, which is WCW video games and licensing. Ask a Bum wants to know, has anyone ever legit mistaken you for your character? Have you ever ran into someone in real life who didn't get the memo, Eric, and they thought that you really were that guy?
Oh, yeah. No, they didn't react to me the same way that they would react to me in a live wrestling experience or environment. But yeah, I mean, there were people that worked at Turner Broadcasting who were scared to death that the president of the company was the character and vice versa. I mean, it was an issue. It was a big issue. And even out socially or in public, what I notice is the most is if I'm at a convention or a signing of some sort, or just I'm out somewhere going through an airport and somebody recognizes me, and you can always tell, the eye contact's a little different. The energy, the vibe is a little different when somebody sees you and they really want to come over and say hi or ask for an autograph, but they don't want to. They're awkward, right? They don't know how to do it. I can spot it from 100 feet away, usually. And then, I'll make eye contact with them and maybe smile or whatever, just to let them know it's okay. And all you have to say is, hey, pleased to meet you. I'm on my way to the plane, but sure, I'll take a selfie. Boom, take a selfie, and off I go. And you can just feel them go, oh, man, he's not that asshole I thought he was. Or maybe they're just nervous and I'm interpreting it incorrectly. But yeah, it's definitely happened on an intense level professionally when people who had never met me before went, how could someone like that run the company? It's funny.
We got another live question here. This one is from Dan. He says, I have a weird question for you. As far as video, why on some old school footage I watched there are black bars on each side of the screen, and some old footage doesn't have the black bars on each side? Of course, he's talking about the 4:3 aspect ratio, I believe here. Do you have a reason on that? Why is some video stretched and others are not? I don't know the technical reason. Do you, Eric?
I don't know for certain at all. Here's my wild ass guess. Probably the format that it's on. Is it a 1-inch tape, 3/4 inch tape, digital? Maybe that might be an answer. Because when I first started learning how to edit, Vern was using 1-inch machines, which probably should have been sold and replaced in the late 60s or early 70s. But that's what he had. That could be it. But I'm not technically experienced enough to be able to answer that question. But I bet you we're going to get an answer before the show is over. Somebody out there, give us an answer. Come on.
Ivan has said, he's here live with us, and he says, Eric nailed it. That is correct. So how about that? You live to enlighten.
I do indeed.
Travis says, Eric, I agree with wanting heroes to get their rewards. Subsequently, the heel doesn't. But Cena's heel turn is a bit half-baked. It's theatrical, not emotional.
Ooh.
We're almost willing his heel turn for fun. What do you think of that? That this maybe isn't as emotional as the Hulk Hogan heel turn. With the benefit of hindsight, that's hard to argue with, isn't it?
Not for me. It's obvious. I mean, look, it's interesting, it's fun, it's compelling. We want to see, because there's more. The personal issue part is kind of on a scale of 1 to 10. The personal issue, in other words, do I really feel like these guys really, really do feel the way they're being presented they feel about each other? Can I believe it? Not quite yet, to be honest. But what's interesting, maybe for me at least now, more interesting than missing that, man, I gotta see what happens when these two step in the ring, because I think that's lacking. That super compelling, like you're scratching the days off the calendar kind of thing. It's not there for most people. But what happens next is actually more compelling. Where is it going to go after WrestleMania? Because of the nature of the people involved and how, who they are. Cody Rhodes, Cena, who else is going to get involved in this mystery? If it is indeed it ends up being a mystery, or whatever it ends up being. I don't know, man. I'm more interested in seeing where it goes than what it does. Ooh, did I just say that? But it's true.
Gareth Jones is with us, and he has a question. He says, how does Eric view the current product, and how much do we appreciate Triple H? And also, if Eric has any input into it. This is something that, I know that you could go on and on about this question, but I have seen some criticism saying, hey, WrestleMania is not sold out. They needed 60,000 seats each night to sell out. They're not going to be close to that. And it feels like, I've seen a lot of other criticism saying there's meaningless singles matches. There's no step matches. There's no special guest WrestleMania host. This is a flop. And I'm just like, wow, I can't imagine when we know going in, we're going to break every revenue record and blah, blah, blah. And I know some fans say they don't care about that, but I sometimes hear the criticism when it's like, hey, you announced a WrestleMania host, but no one cares. Like, who has honestly ever cared who was the WrestleMania? I never cared. What do you think? Is Triple H doing a good job, or has this year's WrestleMania build not met the mark? People are pointing to things like the fact that the tickets aren't sold out and they're doing
That's
a combo
dumb.
offer and all
Conrad,
that.
that's just flat out stupid.
Okay, let's hear about it.
A statement like that is a reflection, and I'm using this term. Now, I just used the term stupid, which is, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call everybody stupid. Not everybody, but the people that thought that because the tickets are down, Triple H is doing a bad job. It's so internet. It's funny. It's Las Vegas on Easter Sunday. I don't care what anybody says. I've been to Las Vegas on Easter Sunday. I intentionally took my family to Las Vegas on Easter Sunday because I knew it would be vacant and everything would be open. And it's amazing what Sunday morning looks like, or Easter weekend looks like in Las Vegas. Now, it was, 15 years ago or more, so maybe it's changed. I don't know. Haven't done it again. But it's not the hottest weekend for WrestleMania. Not the best weekend for WrestleMania. Anybody that says that's not at least a part of it is just trying to be an internet wrestling community king.
I can't wait to see what people think on the other side of WrestleMania, and I can't wait to hear what you think about Factor. Make this your best season yet with the nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy. We're going to give you more time to do what you want. So go outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. You see, Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, and it's perfect for any active lifestyle. With 45 weekly menu options, you can pick your gourmet meals that fit your goals. You can choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. Factor powers your day with satisfying breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and of course, guilt-free snacks and desserts. It's easy to savor more this spring, and Factor meals pack in the flavor with none of the fuss. It really doesn't get any easier than this. If you're watching with us over at 83weeks.com, you see these little boxes that the food comes in. It comes in that white carton. You slide that off, and then you see the great meals there that are covered with these different compartments. Well, there's a little thin thing of plastic on the top. You pop a couple of holes, you slide that in the microwave in 2 minutes. And what comes out does not taste like you imagine. It's much, much better. So good, in fact, when I had my parents bunking with me while they were doing some remodeling projects at their house, I plated it on our regular plates, Eric. Nobody was any the wiser. Factor tastes like the real deal. You're going to love it. You're not only going to love the taste, you're going to love the way you feel. Go right now and get started at factormeals.com/83weeks50 off. And use our code 83weeks50 off. You'll get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code 83weeks50 off at factormeals.com/83weeks50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. So, Eric, we got a few more questions before we get to our topic. Let's jump right into it. Swerve Daddy wants to know, hey, Eric, do you think that Paul stays with Roman? Or do you think we see a swerve and he goes with Punk, or even more of a swerve with Rollins? This is the night one intrigue, the main event. What does Paul Heyman do?
See what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, this is art. It's happening right in front of us, and it's underappreciated until it's over, which is fine sometimes. But I am so envious isn't the right word, because I wouldn't want to trade places with anybody right now. But what a cool position to be in. Whether you're a writer, whether you're Paul and you're looking for the best options, or the talent, you got 3 good choices. It's not a question of choosing one that is either going to work or not work. It's which one of these 3 is going to work best. Which one of these 3 has the longest lifespan in terms of creating an arc? Which one of these 3 could potentially be a 12-month story? or a bloodline type story. It's just so fun when you look at it from that perspective, as opposed to, I didn't sell enough tickets in Vegas on Easter. it's just so much fun if you look at it a little differently. I don't want to say critical thinking, but kind of a creative critical thinking, and look at it from that perspective. This is awesome. I don't know which way he's going to go, because I don't know which of those have the longest tail. I always like the one that you least suspect. So Seth would, based on the way you frame that, would make a lot of sense to me. But I think there's some real runway with him and Punk because of the backstory. Act 1 has already been told.
Right.
They can pick it up in Act 2. That's kind of cool. I love that.
Lots of people are asking this question, Eric. I want your feedback on this. Papa Wheelie says, would you consider Punk versus Rollins versus Reigns a main event without a title? My friends and I are fighting about it. I say no. I know you're big on steaks, and I don't mean ribeyes and fillets. I mean, hey, we want something on the line. I saw someone, I think it was Kevin Owens, do an interview recently, and he said something like, when I main evented night 1 of WrestleMania with Sami Zayn against the Usos or against Steve Austin, everyone said it wasn't the main event. But now that CM Punk is back and he's been so public about his goal in life to be main eventing a WrestleMania, well, now that he's main eventing night 1, well, it turns out the night 1 main event is indeed a WrestleMania main event. Now, of course, going on last, I think, is what everyone knows has always been the barometer. But what do you think? Is there enough meat on the bone without a title for this to be a main event? I mean, the old school thinking is, hey, what goes on last should be for the title. There's not even a tag belt here on the line. It's just a 3-way dance for the main event. Is there enough meat on the bone for a main event there, Eric?
Not for me. But it's an attraction. And therein lies your choices. Sometimes, attractions work. Not everything has to be story driven. If you have enough story in the rest of your product, real story that's working, you can afford to have an attraction match if you have an attraction. Those 3 guys are an attraction. So I would prefer that the winner has something to gain. That's always a driver. No matter what it is, it doesn't always have to be a big thing, but there should be an outcome that is recognized as a huge benefit to somebody to maximize engagement. Doesn't mean you have to have it, but if you want to maximize engagement, you really do. But if you don't have those stakes, that reason, that why, and that's what it comes down to. Why? One word, why. Why are they doing it? Why are these 3 guys wrestling? If the answer is because they're 3 huge names and people will want to see it, fair enough. Just it would be better if there were stakes. That's all.
David Shaker is with us here live, and he wants to know, have either of you watched the WrestleMania 9 documentary that just came out? This did just come out today, I believe. I've seen a lot of people talking about it on social media. I've been in meetings all day and literally just now poking my head up. I haven't had a chance to see this. I am going to watch it this weekend. Eric, what do you think about WWE releasing some of these behind the scenes series like this? I mean, this idea is we're going to learn, based on what I've seen online, that Nick Khan was actually an usher at this show, WrestleMania 9. And you see all of the great behind the scenes footage of Gorilla Monsoon and Bruce Pritchard. I love that stuff. I can't wait to see it. Have you had a chance to check it out? And if not, will you?
I have not, brother. I've been so underwater for the last 2 weeks that I haven't had a chance to look at much of anything. But I absolutely will, and I think it's fantastic. The more people can connect with your brand on different levels. Obviously, television is the driver. That's the heartbeat financially of the company, of the industry. TV licensing is the lifeblood of professional wrestling right now. And they're doing a great job at that, but that's only part of it. And this type of content where the audience feels like they're getting to know something, they're learning, they're experiencing something. In many cases, they didn't even know how it happened. They never really appreciated WrestleMania 9 because their parents were barely born by then. You know what I mean? That's an exaggeration, obviously, but there's so much depth there. It's a little bit like, the NFL, spends a lot of time reminding people of the history of the NFL, the legacy of some of the major players. All that brings the fan base closer to the product, as this type of endeavor will.
We're live here at 83weeks.com, and we greatly appreciate John Sawyer for signing up and joining us and being a new member here at 83weeks.com. Thank you for that, John. Welcome to the club. Mick Mac says, leave Silva alone. He is the face that runs this place. I don't know how many times his face has been on the show, but yes, we've learned our lesson from messing with Dave Silva. The Out of Pocket Variety Show says, as the professor of controversy creating cash, here's a deep cut here, Eric. Would you punish/berate Tiffany for what she said? Do you fear her getting too comfortable moving forward? Now, we're way down the weeds on this whole Tiffany Charlotte thing, but I did see something from Dave Meltzer that I think is interesting. He said, if this would have happened in AEW, the heat would be on Tony Khan and the promotion for not getting to the bottom of it. And he cited specifically the CM Punk Hangman Adam Page promo that went too far, that eventually led to Brawl Out, when these guys were doing these sort of shoot comment promos and the company didn't sort of intervene. It is interesting that that's what was said about AEW, but now that it's happening in WWE, there's no heat on the company and seemingly no heat on Tiffany. In fact, somehow the heat is on the person that the shoot comment was about. It's really fascinating to think how there is a bit of a double standard. I see the point that Dave Meltzer is making, but the question from the Out of Pocket Variety Show is, would you punish Tiffany, Eric?
So, Conrad, those two situations are decidedly different. If someone listening to this or watching us doesn't agree with that, that's cool. Then I would suggest to think about, what is the outcome? You have two situations. One of them was however long ago in AEW. What was the outcome of that? Fights, Punk leaving, fines, 6 months worth of PR and chatter, videotape coming out to try to expose Punk after he left AEW made that news because of the way it ended. This is comparatively a popcorn fart. Who cares other than the internet wrestling community? Because it's something to talk about. It's a conspiracy theory. So the outcomes and the impact of those two situations are night and day. So Dave, of course, doing what Dave does, is trying to, tit for tat this. Like, well, how come everybody got down to Tony, but they're not saying anything about WWE? It's tribalism that he himself is creating. They're two different situations. You can't compare them in that regard. Now, if Tiffany and Charlotte ended up in a brawl backstage, or one of them would have gotten fired from the company, or Triple H would have been in fear for his life, yeah, then we'll talk about comparing them. But this is just another, inverse reality analysis from Dave Meltzer, who spends most of his time upside down.
So would you punish Tiffany or no?
No, she punished herself. She dropped the ball. That's as much of a lesson. Now, assuming she has any degree of self-awareness, which I'm sure she does, or she wouldn't be in a position she's in. But she's going to look back at this and it's going to haunt her because it sucked and it didn't work. And she's going to learn from it. That's about as much punishment as she needs, I guess. For me, that's what how I would pull her aside and say, okay, let's sit down and watch this together. How'd you feel about that? But before I hit play, Tiff, how'd you feel about that? Think you did a good job with that? Would you done anything any differently? Really? Huh. All right, let's watch it back and see how you feel when it's over. Because when you see yourself back, it's completely different than the way you felt in the moment. You don't see yourself the way the audience sees yourself or sees you. You don't even hear yourself the way the audience hears you. I'm talking about the live audience and the audience at home. And then when you look it back and you see it, you go, oh, that right there, that oh, is the most important lesson of that whole mess. Is just realizing that kind of crap doesn't work. If she did it again, that would be a challenge. That conversation would get decidedly different. But I think it was just a learning experience.
Do you think if someone went off script and mentioned something that Hogan or Austin or John Cena or somebody like that was, it was a sensitive sore spot, if they got out of line, what would have happened back in the day, do you think?
It's a fair question, and I really, really try to be as honest and subjective as I can on these things. How would I deal with it today? I can tell you how I would deal with it today. How would I have dealt with it in 1997? It would probably be different. So I guess in 1997, I'd have let it roll off my back. I would have had a conversation. We would have discussed it, and I would have forgotten about it 45 seconds after I got done talking about it and assumed it would never happen again. It would have been anything more than that. Anybody that's ever worked for me knows that because it happens a lot. It happened a lot. What purpose does it serve to take a pro who knows their entire career is at will? They screw up, they drop the ball. This might be the only shot they ever get, meaningful shot. That's a lot of pressure. It should be. What do you get out of taking money from them? Do you think it's going to make a bigger impression on them because it cost them 10 grand? Or you make an example out of them and embarrass them in front of their peers? That's just not my kind of motivation. So that's how I would have handled it now. Been a conversation, but 1997, I would have it would have been another conversation, but it would have been short and sweet. Don't ever do that again and move on.
Well said. Shout out to Stone King, who was looking for a shout out. Micmac says, Eric, it looks like they're blurring the lines to me. I think we all agree that this is, no matter how we got here, more people are talking about the match. And not enough people are talking about Hillbilly Jim, Eric. Ask a Bum wants to know, what's your opinion on Hillbilly Jim? Did you ever spend any time with Hillbilly Jim?
About 20 minutes. Outside. I was outside. I must have been at a hotel or at an event somewhere, and we were sharing a ride, and we were waiting for that ride. And he was the nicest guy. It was just a down to earth person. And I didn't get to talk to him long, but I just remember going, wow, I wish I would have met that guy a long time ago. He's a pretty cool guy.
Well, the really cool guys, they wear Tecovas. And if you've ever wondered if you can pull off boots with your personal style, you owe it to your feet to pull on a pair of Tecovas. You see, being confident isn't about being different. It's about being yourself. Find comfort in the traditions of the West and confidence from making it your own. Honor the West by leaving your own boot print. You see, Tecovas quality Western boots for everyone, from generational ranchers to lifelong cowboys to first-time boot buyers like me. And every single pair of Tecovas boots are handcrafted with over 200 meticulous steps for broken-in comfort that comes right out of the box. Whether it's a long day or a big night, your Tecovas are built to last and to impress. I'm a big believer in this product. I've turned a lot of people on to Tecovas, and I didn't realize so many people in my life were already rocking them. my cousin Derek, my cousin Clint, but I hooked Dad up with not one, but 2 pair this year for Christmas. And what I really like is if you're getting this for someone in your life as a gift, or maybe just yourself, you're a first-time boot buyer, how about Tecovas Best in the West guarantee? You get free returns and exchanges for 30 days, and you're going to love the way you feel when you wear cowboy boots from Tecovas. This isn't your daddy's cowboy boots. These are comfortable right away. I mean, I remember my dad's hesitation was he had a pair of boots as a kid. They were uncomfortable. And his dad was like, that's the way boots are supposed to feel. They're not supposed to be comfortable. Now, eventually, years in, your feet get used to it, but that doesn't mean it's comfortable. Tecovas is, and it comes that way right out of the box. So what are you waiting for? Go right now and get 10% off at tecovas.com/83weeks when you sign up for email and text. That's 10% off at tecovas.com/83weeks, tecovas.com/83weeks. See site for details. Tecovas, point your toes west. Erica, how do you like your Tecovas?
I love them. Here's how I know I love them. When I travel, like if I'm flying all day, because if I fly anywhere, it's all day coming out of Cody, Wyoming. And walking through airports, I could put on a lot of miles going through airports, let's put it that way. And I do it in my boots because they're the most comfortable shoes I have. It's unbelievable. And right out of the box, usually with cowboy boots, a month or two, and they start feeling pretty good. About 2 or 3 months, and they're a sweet spot, right where you want them to be. Tecovas, I took mine out of the box, I put them on, I went, ooh, these are nice. And wore them all day, every day, ever since. I don't wear them to the gym. Doesn't work so good at the gym. It looks a little goofy too, like if you're wearing shorts and you have cowboy boots on. Dusty Rhodes used to do it all the time. I'd go over to his house, he'd be out there in big, brightly colored shorts, he'd have his cowboy boots on. He could pull it off. I can't. I just can't. But yeah, they're really cool boots, man. I love them.
Check them out, Tecovas. You're going to love them. Micmac says he wants to see you and Mr. Briscoe in a shoot match at StarCast. Is there any chance we're going to put you in a shoot fight with? There's no chance. Like, I got criticized for Ric Flair's last match. Lining anybody up to fight Gerald Briscoe is a death wish for them, not Mr. Briscoe, right?
It would be so embarrassing. I would never do that to myself. I do have some dignity left. After 30 years in the professional wrestling business and everything that I put myself through on TV, I still have just a little bit of dignity, and I would not sacrifice it to Mr. Briscoe for anybody's entertainment, especially his. He's a sadistic man.
Of course, we're running a poll here live at 83weeks.com, and we asked, what's the real main event of WrestleMania on Saturday? And Punk, Roman, and Rollins got 27% of the vote. Gunther and Uso got 10% of the vote. But the overwhelming majority, 61%, say Cody and Cena is the real main event. No surprise there for me. Hey, I don't know that you saw this, Eric, but, well, I can't imagine you're thrilled about it. I don't know how they're going to market this, but AEW Dynamite is about to pass a bit of a milestone. This Wednesday in Boston, AEW Dynamite will become the longest running primetime weekly wrestling show in TNT history. Like, this is that feels like a direct shot at WCW, but I've always thought that was interesting. It's on TNT. It's a challenger brand for the WWE. There was a name called Nitro. Now it's a name called Dynamite. It feels parallel. Is this irksome to you, or is it flattering, Eric?
I want to congratulate Tony Khan and his entire staff. This obviously means a lot to them, and congratulations. It does say a lot about Tony's commitment. Tony put his own money into this. You can judge the product. I can judge the product. I often have. I just don't watch it anymore. But truth is, his vision, his dream, his money, his commitment. So congratulations. because what he did isn't easy. No matter how anybody feels about the product, it wasn't easy, and it still isn't. So congratulations for your effort. And no, it doesn't bother me a bit. It just doesn't mean anything to me, while it does to Tony and company, and I understand why. You put a lot of time and work and money, as I've just discussed. So good for them, but no, it doesn't bother me at all.
We got a question here from Jeff who wants to know, Eric, are you excited for the new NWO book? It's called Say Hello to the Bad Guys. It's available now. I got an advance copy from our buddy Mark. He hooked me up. I'm absolutely loving it. And if you're not familiar, Say Hello to the Bad Guys is available now on Amazon. You'll see Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash there. This is a story about how professional wrestling's new world order changed America. I know you had a chance to be involved with this a little bit, Eric. What do you think of this book? Are you excited about this book being released?
I really am. Now, I got my copy the other day, and I've started reading it yesterday morning, actually. And Mark Raimondi, he's a sports writer for ESPN, wrote the book. And what I've read so far, it's going to be hard to put it down once I get into it. And I cheated, because I have to, because, I don't have ADD or anything like that. I'm just not a very patient person. It's simple as that. It's got nothing to do with any limitations or whatever. But I'll get a book and I'll open it up, somewhere in the first third of the book, I'll open up, I'll read a couple pages, and I'll do the same thing in the middle, and I'll do the same thing towards the end to try to get a feel for the book. And I did that immediately. As soon as I opened it up out of the package, I read this one. Ooh, I better move on and take a look here, because once I start reading this, I won't put it down. It was that good. I can't wait to read it. I'll probably get through it over the weekend. And that's not me. Anybody, when you ask my wife, she'll give me a book that's maybe 200 pages and say, here, you need to read this. 6 months later, I'll get the book done. I just don't have the patience to sit and read like recreationally. It's not my thing. But definitely going to make an exception in this case, because it's what I've seen so far is really, really good. And Mark is look, NWO has been covered. WCW has been covered. It's kind of fascinating in a way. It's interesting coming off AEW has been around as long as Nitro. Good for them. I wonder if anybody will be writing books, several of them, about AEW 25 or 30 years from now. I kind of doubt it. And the fact is, this book is out now. Guy Evans has what I'll refer to as a sequel to Nitro called Beyond Nitro that is coming out in a matter of weeks. I've looked at excerpts of that book, and it is going to fry some circuits. Let me go back to Mark's book. There's 2 books coming out, WCW, NWO. Mark's book is looking at the NWO from purely a pop culture perspective,
Yes.
in a way that has not been covered before, not been done before. So yeah, that's the NWO, and there's another book about the NWO, but this one's from an entirely different perspective, and it's fascinating so far.
We should cover some other late breaking news. Again, we don't know all the details. This has come out since we've been recording, Eric, but I do want to share it and get your natural reaction. We've got some news on Kevin Owens. This is coming to us via Fightful, and I guess it's not an official report, but this is more of the general feeling within the company, according to Sean Ross Sapp, that Kevin Owens isn't expected back in 2025, and it's quite possible he may miss WrestleMania next year. So this was the biggest fear when we learned last Friday that Kevin Owens was not going to be appearing at WrestleMania because he had some sort of a spine or neck or back injury, that he may have to have the quote unquote bad neck surgery, the one where you're gone for like the better part of a year. That looks like what we're looking at. And of course, we're all hopeful that Kevin Owens can even return to in-ring action. But I know you have a soft spot for Kevin Owens, and to have the rug pulled out from under you in the middle of a great run and a great career, just less than 2 weeks away from WrestleMania, this is just disaster for him personally, I'm sure. What do you make of this report, Eric? I mean,
I feel horrible for Kevin. I don't want to give the impression that we're real close friends. We stay in touch a couple times a year via text. but I feel like I kind of know him a little bit because of the conversations that he and I had. And I got fairly close to him in WWE during his program with Shane McMahon. I was kind of in the middle of that. And at that point in time, Vince was being really hard on Kevin. I mean, really hard. And Kevin was doing his absolute best to make it work. And I saw it. I saw what he was going through, and I saw the way Vince treated him. So I helped as much as I could. And I don't think I helped all that much, to be honest with you, but I tried, right? And in the process of that, I got a feel for him. He's got a great family. He's close to his family and his kids. His head is so squarely on his shoulders. As horrible as this is, and as bad as I feel for Kevin, I also know Kevin's going to be just fine because his head is on straight. And pray for the guy. Heal quick. Get back in the ring. And if anybody can do it, Kevin can, because he's a pretty strong-minded individual. I saw a lot of that. That's the part that, and I think it's the way Kevin handled the pressure he was under from Vince. Because I think Vince was trying to get, by the way, it wasn't just Vince being mean. It was Vince's way of coaching Kevin up. It was kind of, I don't want to say brutal, but it was tough. It's tough to watch, tough to listen to. Kevin handled it. And when I saw him handling it, I went, wow, this guy's special, because a lot of people couldn't and wouldn't have. So yeah, thoughts and prayers, brother. You'll be fine.
A great family guy. He's going to have a long future in wrestling, no matter what the future looks like. Just a brilliant wrestling mind. And you would look long and hard before you found anyone inside the wrestling business who wasn't a fan of Kevin Owens. He's almost universally loved within the confines of the business. So we're all pulling for Kevin Owens. I can't imagine how down he is or devastated he is. I want to encourage you, if you were ever a Kevin Owens fan, tweet him and be the bright spot. There's so much negativity and toxicity in Twitter. If you enjoyed Kevin Owens' in-ring work, a promo, a match, a moment, tweet him and let him know about it. It would be a bright spot for him to log in and see people loving on him a little bit. I hope he feels good on the other side of all this. We are live here with Eric Bischoff, and we're taking your questions. Eventually, we're going to, in theory, talk about WCW video games.
We're gonna have a repeat of next week.
We got a silly
before we get to the next question. Did I tell you I've got a new show coming out next week?
What? No, I got to hear all about this. Tell me about it.
I'm so bad at this kind of stuff. Yeah, starting next WrestleMania week. Why not? If you're going to launch a new show, launch it WrestleMania week, right?
Oh, yeah.
From Las Vegas, from the entertainment capital of the world, we're going to launch this new show. It's called Stumps and Bumps.
Oh, that's
Stumps
awesome.
and Bumps, you say? What the hell is that? Stumps is a reference to the world of cricket. And my partner in this endeavor is Bharat Sundarasian. Bharat's from India, currently living in Australia, one of the most well-known cricket journalists on the planet. There's been a documentary. It just came out on him in Australia recently. He's just a great guy, really knows the world of cricket. And I know everybody's saying, why cricket? Listen, Bharat, I met him because he's a member of the Ad Free Show's family. And connected in Australia. We hit it off. He actually came out to the house last summer and spent the 4th of July, him and his buddy, out here in Wyoming with us. Super guy. We had a blast. And it was then, hey, hold on, Nick. It was, sorry about that. It was, hold on.
Wait, is that Dave Meltzer's dog trying to interrupt you?
Wait, Nicky. No, that's my dog. She hears somebody outside. She thinks somebody's trying to get in. Get over here. You're being such a little biatch. Down. So anyway, we talked about launching this podcast. I'm going to talk about the world primarily of WWE, right? So we're not going to do the current stuff. And we're going to talk about the topics that are most discussed every week in India. Do you know there are 350 million WWE fans in India?
I did not.
We're going to be talking to them about wrestling And Bharat is going to talk to the world about cricket. We're going to have betting odds and all kinds of information. So if you want to get into playing gambling a little bit on cricket, Bharat's going to smarten you up. So anyway, that starts next week, April 18th. Look for it on YouTube. It'll have its own YouTube channel. You'll see more of that stuff as we go through the week.
We're all going to be tweeting about it. If you haven't already, follow us on social media. It's at 83 Weeks. And of course, Eric Bischoff, if he hasn't already, he can't wait to make fun of you on social media. So hit him up as well. It's at Bischoff on Twitter and at the real Eric Bischoff over on Instagram. Fan Sports 5 says, Eric Conrad, do you think WWE should have a Hall of Fame wing for podcasts? No. But if they did, first up would be Stephanie's Place. Instagram, a wrestling historian, has a great question, Eric. Maybe you'll get the joke. I love this. Eric, what's your Waffle House order?
I don't know that I've ever been in. If I've been in a Waffle House, it was just for coffee. So I don't
wait. All the times you've come to Alabama and I did not take you to a Waffle House?
No, man. That's not my thing.
Wait, it's eggs and bacon. That's carnivore.
Yeah, that's true. But I just never have. I guess if I'm going to go to the Waffle House, I'm going to eat a freaking waffle.
Oh, no.
Why would you go to the Waffle House and get bacon and eggs? You know, bacon and eggs anyway.
No, you can't. Not like that. Well, listen, It's a whole cultural experience. Next time you're down here, I'm taking you to Waffle House. And maybe it'll be because you and Mrs. B were up all night, thanks to Blue Chew. Have some better sex with Blue Chew, why don't you? And right now, they've got exciting news. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. It's a combo that acts fast and it lasts. Guys, you can be ready whenever she needs it. Get your first month of Blue Chew free. You see great sex, it's just a few clicks away. Sign up right now at bluechew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA. They're prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part is it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Make your life easier by getting harder and discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code 83 Weeks. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's promo code 83 Weeks. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast.
Wow, that was close. Usually when you do those reads, it's my opportunity to get up and take a leak. Oh, man, that was close. You were almost flying solo there for a minute. Come walking with the frame of my belt hanging off, whatever. But here I am. I made it.
Well, hey, listen, if your belt's undone, do you want to show everybody how well Blue Chew works? We're live, pal.
No, but I heard that read from in the restroom, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's a new product. I may have to check that out.
Yeah, I think you need that for Vegas. But what happens in Vegas may not stay in Vegas if Mrs. B needs a donut for the ride home. I digress. Michael DeVary says, Eric Bischoff will always be one of the great wrestling minds as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for the years of great entertainment. Oh, my gosh. We found an Eric Bischoff fan on an Eric Bischoff podcast. Roll Tide.
Wait a minute. Can you read that again? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you.
Eric Bischoff will always be one of the great wrestling minds as far as I'm concerned. Wow. Thank you for years of great entertainment.
Oh, music to my ears. Thank you very much, Michael. Seriously, I appreciate that.
We agree, Michael. I've never thought Eric got his proper flowers, but I want to give some flowers here to Chris, who just gifted an 83weeks.com membership. We greatly appreciate that. Anthony wants a question here, Eric. I'm graduating from college in about a month. Is there any advice you would give to a soon-to-be college grad? Eric, you've had two young kids that you've launched successfully into the world of business and careers and families. What is some advice you would drop on a new college grad?
Challenge yourself. Take a job that'll help you grow, even if it's not necessarily the best financial opportunity immediately. Yeah, just get your hands dirty. Do some shit you've never done before. Put yourself in an uncomfortable position. Comfort is a thief. And a college degree is nothing more or nothing less than proof to the world that you have the discipline to at least get through a 4-year degree, and in some cases perhaps excel in something that, you know, could lead to a great career in the future. But in the meantime, until you get to that great career in the future, try different stuff, man. Challenge yourself. Do things you never thought you would imagine yourself doing, because you'll learn something along the way that may be really, really valuable down the road that you would have never learned in college.
Luis Martinez says, "Hey, Eric, I'm from the Bronx, and people out here don't take Easter that seriously or even go to church that day. Is it different in Vegas?" I mean, there was a comment I saw earlier, Eric, that made me laugh out loud that said, if Jesus of Nazareth was to wrestle Beelzebub the devil in Las Vegas on Easter, it wouldn't sell out. That made me laugh. Of course, I mean, just the uphill battle. From what I understand, WWE got maybe their biggest site fee ever for this year's WrestleMania. Because Vegas is always down on Easter, they needed something to bring that weekend up. So if we're going into it knowing, hey, nobody comes here for Easter, this is a really tough sell for Easter to come to Sin City on a religious holiday. So we need to offset that. Hey, we'll throw you some cash to bring it here. To your point earlier, any sort of chatter about, oh, they didn't sell it out, they're more than making it up with the rights fee to bring it there. But what do you think? Is it different in Vegas? Like, you know, I laugh at this, that, hey, Easter's not big in the Bronx. It's big with religious people, Louise. But yeah, what say you, Eric?
So here's my take. I don't know that I'm right. This is kind of like my gut telling me. I don't know how many people. I don't know what's the venue in Vegas that they're in. I don't even remember.
Where the Raiders play,
Okay, whatever that is, whatever that capacity is, I would venture to say only a small percentage of it, less than half of the people that would normally fill that stadium are even from Las Vegas. The other half happened to be there, or planned on being there, or came in from Europe to be there for WrestleMania. They're not selling to the local market. So to the extent that the local market is affected by the religious holiday, I don't know what percentage, actively observe Easter, spending it with family, traditional dinners, church, that type of thing. I have no idea. But I think it's a pretty safe bet that is a small percentage of the potential audience for WrestleMania. The rest of it is from people that come in from out of town. Now, people observe Easter different ways. Some really don't observe it at all. Others, it's as an important day as Christmas. People who are very religious look at Easter much differently than people who are not, right? Some of those people are going to choose not to travel that weekend because they have family commitments, just like they would at Christmas. So, yeah, I mean, look, you pointed out the money shot is, from a financial perspective, they didn't need to sell out. They're going to do just fine. And they may indeed eventually sell out. Who knows? I don't know.
I don't think they will. I think that 65,000 capacity for football. I think they're trying to set up wrestling for 60,000. They need to move like 11,000 more tickets on Saturday night.
Oh, I don't think that's tough. I don't think that's tough for WrestleMania.
Okay. So we'll see. Eric thinks 11,000 walk up over the next week. We'll
not walk up necessarily, but I think they'll discount tickets. They'll run promotions. They'll do.
Oh, it'll look full. Come on now.
No, but I mean, those tickets, the revenue will be attached.
Yes.
Revenue will be attached. It may not be face value revenue, but they will be sold, and there will be bodies in the seats, and it will be real revenue. It's not like bringing in people off the street and handing them a taco and say, sit here for 5 hours and pretend you're happy. It won't be that.
Chris says, Blue Meanie for president. Shout out to Meanie. Steve Combs has a great what if, Eric. I know you hate fantasy booking, but this is a fun one. We've all heard the story that once upon a time, perhaps someone in WCW presented the idea of making Steve Austin maybe a relative of Hulk Hogan because he had the similar hair and all that sort of deal. Well, Steve Combs says, what if Austin had been under the hood and Halloween Havoc 1994? What if it wasn't Ed Leslie, the famous best friend of Hulk Hogan, the former Breedis the Barber Beefcake, and instead it was Steve Austin? If that would have happened, in that alternate universe scenario, it's unlikely that maybe the next year he would have been released from WCW. If Austin would have been under the hood, what does that change, Eric, if anything?
First of all, it changes a lot of the heat that I had to endure for probably 10 years or more for being the guy that fired Stone Cold Steve Austin. So that's first and foremost on my list. And secondly, it would have, if he would have stuck around, if I would have kept him in WCW and we would have booked him in that way, and it would have gotten over, because it would have gotten over, there'd be no Stone Cold Steve Austin, which means you might not be looking at the WWE that you're looking at today. Because in many respects, Stone Cold Steve Austin during that era really was the driver that led to WWF coming out of the hole that I put him in and burying WCW in the same hole. So much of that was because of Steve and the story and Mr. McMahon and Mike Tyson, all that. But the Attitude Era was born on the back of Stone Cold Steve Austin. A lot of other support, don't get me wrong, he didn't do it single-handedly, but he was the focus. And that wouldn't have happened. If that wouldn't have happened, it's not a hard picture to see in your mind. If the Attitude Era hadn't taken off the way it did, largely because of Steve Austin and the Mr. McMahon angle and Tyson and all that, that flashpoint turned that company around. Had that not happened, I don't know that WWE would have been able to turn the company around. I don't know that they would have been able to go public. And they were able to go public because of the success of the battle between WCW and WWE and turning their company around. That success allowed them to go public. And going public is what created the opportunity that we're looking at right now. So a lot would have changed. Just one decision, one choice. The whole world would have changed. The wrestling world.
Bushin Ryu Cat says, Eric, I consider myself a mark as much as any fan, but I dropped AEW in a flash when the Bucks interfered with a Moxley Swerve match. I love pro wrestling, but thanks to choices, I don't have to settle. So this is in reference to the pay-per-view this past weekend. AEW Dynasty went down from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was a long show, and what went on last is Swerve Strickland challenging Jon Moxley for the belt. Almost everyone I talked to in advance of the show felt like, well, this is the end of Moxley's reign, and Swerve Strickland is going to become the champion for the second time. There were even articles published on wrestling websites that were pre-written because everyone kind of assumed that was going to be the case. But it wasn't the case. The Young Bucks came out after more than 6 months away and took down Swerve. And so now there was a little bit of intrigue as to where is this going? We saw this past Wednesday, the Bucks came out again, and in an effort to try to talk to Jon Moxley and invite him back out. Well, here comes Kenny Omega, and here comes Okada. So the Bucks are back. But some people are disappointed that this Death Riders angle hasn't come to an end. But I think that's interesting because the way we view wrestling is different than we used to. I mean, how many wrestling fans were frustrated that Hulk Hogan wasn't losing the title when he was running the NWO? Like, he had a ton of heat on him. Is there such a thing as bad heat, Eric? Or is the idea that you've pissed off the fans? That's kind of the idea with some of these, right? You want it to get heat, but it feels like in the question here, he said, oh, that's enough. I didn't get what I wanted. I'm done with AEW. How do you respond to that, Eric?
First of all, comparing Jon Moxley and the Death Riders to Hulk Hogan and the NWO in any context is an automatic non-starter for me. Again, apples, not even apples and oranges, apples and bricks. There's just no comparison. And the same is true with heat. People use the word heat in such a broad and general way. But when you're talking about a heel and heat within a story, that heat has to create connection. It has to be compelling. It has to be the fuel that grows the interest in your product vis-a-vis said story. That's heat. in that context. There's nothing about the Death Rider story that has that kind of heat. It has a different kind of heat, which is not just another word for reaction. And that reaction is largely, I can't think of a better word than repulsive, meaning it's just people are turning away from it. It's not making them sick. They're not throwing up on their shoes. I don't mean that. I don't mean it derisively. I just can't think of a better word. People are turning away from it. If you want to call that heat, that's heat. But it has nothing to do with the kind of heat that Hulk Hogan had in the NWO.
I wasn't suggesting that they were comparable. I was suggesting that sometimes when you're booking for wrestling, you don't always feel the need to send them home happy. And a lot of people feel like they're not going to do that in the main event of WrestleMania, that John Cena may get his hand raised. So we're not necessarily sending them home happy.
I don't. But when I say you, Conrad, I don't mean you personally. I mean the collective.
Yeah.
So I apologize if that wasn't clear. But I don't think that true. The idea of sending them home happy every time, I don't subscribe to that theory at all. Yeah, you particularly at house shows, of course you want to send them home happy. It's a little different. It's a lot different on television. I usually ended my shows with heat or letting the heels get over. It's different now, especially with just the amount of television. If you got into the pattern of sending people home happy at the end of every television show, at whatever house shows they still do, at all of your pay-per-views, that's not good either. You got to mix it up once in a while. If the story dictates it and you know where you're going with it, take the heat. It's an investment in your future. Use that. Use it. Do exactly the opposite of what people expect you to do, or what you usually do in your typical pattern of sending people home happy, whether it be for the event itself live or whether it's for the pay-per-view or TV show. Break that up a little bit to intensify that heat / interest, and then use it to go forward. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's how I feel about heat.
It's funny, we're talking about heat and we are live. It's 6:37 Central, 7:37 Eastern on Friday night, just moments before WWE starts Friday Night SmackDown live. And we've got a report, Eric. Let's take a look at what was just posted on social media. Charlotte Flair is attacking Tiffany Stratton out in the parking lot. There's actually a video out there, and they've turned this into a brawl. And of course, it's being posted by fans who are seeing them unloading. They did this earlier. I think it was last year with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. So all of this talk about, is it a work? Is it a shoot? Boy, they're just giving us exactly what we want. Aren't they, Eric?
Didn't we just talk about this?
Yes.
Didn't we just talk about the possibility that this is, kind of what they wanted because it feels different and it gets people talking? Oh my gosh. Sometimes I feel like Nostra freaking Damas. It's just funny. And it's not that hard. I mean, it's childish really, but it's funny. Makes me laugh.
Well, something that is going to make everybody smile this holiday season, I want you to start thinking about is, what are you going to get mom for Mother's Day? What are you going to get dad for Father's Day? Do you even remember what you got them last year? Maybe even worse. Do they remember? Well, let's give a gift they'll never forget with paintyourlife.com. I'm a big believer in this product. You've heard me brag about it for years. I can even tell you that my cousin Derek, he had both of his parents pass away before his son was born. And so he doesn't listen to the program. He's more of a WWF guy. We'll forgive him for that. But I'm going to give my cousin Derek a portrait of his son meeting his parents for the very first time. And I was able to snag the photo off of his windshield, like right near his gauge cluster. He's got an old Polaroid of his mom and dad with him as a baby. I was able to snag that, take a photo. I uploaded it directly to paintyourlife.com. and then uploaded another photo of his son. PaintYourLife.com is going to put them all together. Do you think when I hand that to my cousin for Father's Day, we're going to get some waterworks? That once upon a time didn't even feel like it was possible. I mean, who even has access to hand-painted portraits of your family? It feels make-believe, but it's reality with PaintYourLife.com. It'll be the most meaningful and personal gift he gets this entire year, and he'll never forget who gave it to him. He'll hang it with pride in his house, and when people come over, he's going to say, hey, my cousin Conrad got that for me for Father's Day. Isn't that awesome? Where you can upload images or even combine images of a special place, a loved one, people who never met, like I mentioned with Derek and his son. You can even choose the artist, the medium. Like, do you want it in oil or acrylic or watercolor or even charcoal? Hey, they'll even frame it. Not only that, you communicate directly with the artist to ensure that your portrait is painted just like you dreamed of. You can even get it in as little as 2 weeks. This is the absolute best gift to give this Mother's Day and this Father's Day. And Paint Your Life transforms your photos into one-of-a-kind, beautiful, hand-painted portraits done by professional artists. And you can give the most meaningful gift you've ever given at Paint Your Life. There's no risk. If you don't love the final painting, your money's refunded, guaranteed. And right now is a limited time offer. Get 20% off your painting. That's right, 20% off and free shipping. Now, to get this special offer, just text the word weeks to 87204. That's weeks to 87204. Text weeks to 87204. Paint your life. Celebrate the moments that matter most. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. I absolutely love paintyourlife.com. And Eric, by the way, in his other studio, he's got a paintyourlife.com portrait back there.
I'm looking at it right now. It's that famous scene in the middle of the ring, and it's a huge portrait. It's beautiful. And we are going to auction it off at the right time for the right cause, because it's just too cool to be out here in my office all by itself. I'm only out here once a week doing this show with you. The rest of the time I work upstairs, but it's very, very cool. And I get to, I'm looking right across. It's that scene in the middle of the ring right after Hogan dropped the leg. He's standing there with Mid-Gene. The ring is filled with trash. Kevin Nash is there with his hands on his hips, kind of scowling. Scott Hall looks like $1 million, loving life with Gene Okerlund and Hulk Hogan in the middle. But yeah, someday we'll auction this thing off for the right time, for the right cause at the right time.
We're seeing a lot of chatter in the live chat about WrestleMania. Nick from Boston has a fun question. Everybody wants to know what Randy Orton's doing for WrestleMania. I've seen some speculation that it could be Nick Aldis, and I've even seen some chatter online saying that he's the betting favorite, that since Randy Orton gave the RKO to Nick Aldis when it was announced that Kevin Owens was out of WrestleMania, people think Nick Aldis might get his WrestleMania moment. I, for one, am all for that. There's been other speculation that, well, guys like Rusev or perhaps even Aleister Black, who we've heard are coming back to WWE, might take that spot. If you were booking, Eric, would you give this WrestleMania opportunity against Randy Orton to Rusev, to Malachi Black, or to Nick Aldis?
Nick, because there's a story. You've got an inciting incident, which is the first thing you do in an act one. You take your character, in this case, Nick Aldis. He's the GM of WWE. His world is being the GM of WWE. And then something happens. That's why it's called an inciting incident. You're like lighting a match to a fuse and stick of dynamite. Something happens to take him out of that world and thrust him into one that's completely different. And then the journey begins. I think it's great. Here's another reason why I think it's great. Because I think Nick Aldis is a super guy. Super guy. Class act. And I've stayed in touch with Nick. We've stayed friends since my time in TNA, to be honest. And there's been different times throughout his career before he ended up as the GM where we bounced ideas back and forth and talked about different options that he had and what might be the best option for him, just as friends. I know, based on those conversations, that it was a real struggle for Nick because he his opportunity at WWE came late. And he's so grateful for the role he's in. I know he is. But this situation where all of a sudden he goes from being the guy that's looking in his rearview mirror and going, you know, I never really had the shot I really wished I could have had in the ring as a wrestler. Oh, and now he's going to be in WrestleMania potentially. What a great way. Just a great thing to happen to anybody, especially to a decent guy like Nick.
I, for one, hope it's Nick Aldis too. It's crazy to think he's been at that company now more than 18 months. And what a build it would wind up being if he's been an on-screen character for 18 months. But you can just take a look and know that he's kept himself in phenomenal shape. And a lot of wrestling fans, a lot of WWE fans are going to really see if this happens, and this is real, Nick Aldis in action for the very first time. And what a debut at WrestleMania. Goodness gracious,
too good
right?
to be true. I mean, you never want to, get an opportunity because of somebody else's injury, particularly in the case of Kevin, which is a serious one, career threatening at the least. But man, it happened. And what a story that would be for Nick. What a story that would be. That would be documentary worthy, actually. You give me 1 hour of somebody's airtime and I could tell you one hell of a story with that situation.
Let that be a lesson to young wrestlers too, right? He, in theory, if this proves out to be true, I don't know. I'm just guessing, but I would imagine that Nick, when he came on board with WWE, he still wanted to wrestle, but they weren't looking for a wrestler. They were looking for a GM. So he took the job that maybe wasn't his dream job, but it got him a jersey. It got him in the game. And in theory, he's done everything that was asked of him. He's been a loyal and faithful and true soldier for WWE, but he's also kept himself in great shape. If this winds up happening and he gets called off the bench, if you will, and now he's in the confines of the ring at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, man, that's the stuff that dreams are made of. And it's a story of perseverance that I hope a lot of young wrestlers or just young entrepreneurs or young business people, or if you're in a sports situation as a young person listening to this and QB1 goes down, if you're not ready to step into that spot, you'll never get that spot. It's not like, hey, make me the manager and I'll start showing up on time. You got to be ready. And if this happens, man, what a story that is for Nick Aldis. I'm with you, Eric. It's like a little miniature movie. It's a little documentary in and of itself.
Yeah, it sure is. Let's hope for the best. And yeah, I won't say any more. Let's just hope for the best.
And just me personally, what if Mickie James was there doing her best scary Sherry for Nick? That would be so cool, dude. I would love that. I hope that happens.
Me too.
Revan says on Dave's podcast, he said he wasn't surprised that Gunther renewed with WWE because they're in a war. While I agree they're paying more because there's another place, I'm not sure that means war. I'm not surprised that that these companies are trying to lock down talent long term. Like, it does feel like, the revenues and the stakes are higher than ever. And if you're trying to forecast and you're trying to, report your numbers to the street like you are with WWE, you don't want any of your wild horses getting out and escaping. You got to lock those folks down. Gunther re-signing with WWE just makes sense to me. Wouldn't you agree?
It's so obvious. And again, It's the perception that Dave is trying to create and trying to manipulate into people thinking that there's a war and that there's actually any real impact of anything that AEW does on WWE. Here's what I think, and this is just business. WWE is and this is, I hate to even say this because this was Vince McMahon's thing all along. And I used to just, whenever I'd hear him say it. The company is an intellectual property company. And with the things that are going on now in WWE, they're probably looking at licensing deals that have a 3-year runway before they hit the market. When you look at the types of video games they're doing and the types of things they're doing, these are deals that take time to develop. You do the deal, and then you have to develop the content over time. Could be a year, could be a year and a half, 2 years, depending on what you're developing. If it's something that's, if it's a video game, it takes for a long time to develop those. So if you've got a piece of talent that you feel is valuable to you based on the forecast you can see in front of you with deals that he would be involved in, or she, you want to sign them up long term. You don't want to run up against, the end of their contract before you start negotiating. You're looking far into the future if you're actually operating a business. And clearly WWE is operating an intellectual property business. That has a lot more to do with it than anything that Tony Khan does or doesn't, or even the perception of any one talent leaving the company to go anywhere, to go become a monk, whatever. There's no single piece of talent right now that could leave WWE that would have a significant immediate impact on the future of the company.
I'm excited to see what's going to happen tonight on SmackDown. But before we do, I want to remind everybody that, hey, Rocket Money is a personal finance app that's going to help you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, help you monitor your spending, even help you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. With Rocket Money, you'll see all of your subscriptions in one place, and you'll know exactly where your money is going. And for those subscriptions you don't want anymore, well, Rocket Money can actually help you cancel them. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of all of your expenses across all of your different accounts, and they can easily create a personalized budget with custom categories to help you keep your spending on track. See your monthly spending trends in each category to know exactly where your money is going. You can even get alerts if bills increase in price, maybe there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. The new goals feature automatically saves money for you, so you don't have to think about it. You can pay off your credit card debt, start saving money for a house, or just build up your savings. Rocket Money helps you make it easy. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate to lower your bills on your behalf. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service, so you don't have to. In fact, Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and they've saved over $500 million. That's right, over $500 million saved in canceled subscriptions. We're talking saving members up to $740 a year when you're using all of the app's premium features. So go cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go right now to rocketmoney.com/83weeks today. That's rocketmoney.com/83weeks. rocketmoney.com/83weeks.
I know I'm driving Dave Silva crazy because every time I get up to use the restroom, he tells you in our private chat, Eric's gone. Eric's back. Eric's gone. Eric's back. I'm cutting him close today, brother.
We've got a question here from Chad who wants to know, Eric, if you had the pencil, who's going to win the match, Cody or John? Of course, he's talking about night 2, the main event of WrestleMania. If you were booking, would you book for Heat? Does John Cena leave the 17-time world champion? Or does Cody get his hand raised?
John, I always bet on Heat. In situations, it's funny, I sent you a text today. 2 things I go by. Bet on greed and bet on Heat. I'd go Heat.
Well, the entire wrestling world is going to be talking about WrestleMania over the next week. We're going to be coming to you next week here on 83 Weeks during your regularly scheduled podcast. You can check us out each and every Friday at 83weeks.com or anywhere you enjoy podcasts. But next Sunday, when the final curtain falls on Cody and Cena, immediately jump on and join us here at 83weeks.com. Matter of fact, right now, while you're thinking about it, go hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell, and you'll know immediately when we start right after night 2 of WrestleMania. It's going to be late at night. It's going to be a Sunday night, but it's the biggest night of the year, and Eric and I aren't going to miss it. Make plans to join us. We got lots of other offers of support here. Ask a Bum is saying KO is a top 10 GOAT, period. There is some speculation from Jim. Do you think it'll be Rusev or Miro facing Randy Orton at WrestleMania? You answered that one and said, hey, we think it's going to be Nick Aldis. I hope so. Ask a Bum says, maybe you should just invite Kevin Owens out for some of that famous Bischoff barbecue. He'll be healed immediately.
He's got a standing invitation, and we've talked about it, so it could happen.
Trigger Cheese wants to know, what are your 2 favorite storylines outside of your own? Eric, when you take a look back through the biggest stories in wrestling, ones that you didn't have a hand in, what stories would you say are 2 of your very favorite storylines?
I think the Mega Powers, Randy and Hulk.
Yep, that's a good one.
That's for me. It's probably number 1, just as a fan, because it was kind of before I got involved in the business. As a business person, as a producer, clearly the Bloodline story is probably it's the best story that's been told maybe ever in wrestling. At least, I'm going to go with that. And just, I don't know what kind, it's a subjective thing, right? But if you look at dollars, if you look at ratings, viewership, if you look at tickets sold over the course of that storyline, I don't think that there's anything you can analyze that would suggest that it's not the best story ever told. I didn't say the greatest, the best story that's ever been told. So I would say I'd sit down and think long and hard about those 2 for sure.
Want to give a little love to Efren. He joined us live here and just wanted to throw into the calls. Want to give him a shout out.
Go F.
The game event coming to a.
Hey, Efren, I'm sorry, Conrad. I don't mean to talk over you. Efren, if you're listening, I know you are. If you have a sizzle reel or casting tape, send it to me ASAP.
Okay. Eric, I know you've been working on some other stuff. You closed a mega deal earlier this week. Do you want to give everybody some late breaking news, or do they have to wait and hear about that another
No, I can't. No, I can't.
Well, but hang on now. I was under the impression that we were clear to announce that next week, the week of WrestleMania, stomps and bumps are coming your way.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about something else I can't talk about quite yet. Absolutely. Stumps and bumps. Me and Baz. Barat refers to himself as Baz and is convinced that we have adopted him into the Bischoff family. So he goes by Baz Bischoff. Believe it or not, that was his idea, not mine. I can't wait to do this. It's going to be way different. I've been texting Barat, who's over in Adelaide, I believe, Australia, or Brisbane. I can't remember anymore. But he's over in Australia, and we're texting back and forth, and we're approving logos and talking about doing a dry run in a pilot episode this weekend. So, yeah, it's happening, man. It's going to be fun. Cricket in wrestling. Who would ever thunk it? Who knows? It could be cool as hell. We're going to do it. We're going to have fun doing it.
Can you give us any kind of tease about the other thing I was teasing about? Anything at all?
No.
Do you think we'll learn about it in May? Will we learn about it in June?
Before the end of April.
Okay. Stay tuned, boys and girls. Eric Bischoff's got something up his sleeve that you don't see coming, and it's going to be fun. And we're going to have some fun next week right here. Eventually, by God, we're talking about Thunder.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Silva, I'll give you a call right after the show.
Oh, God. Everybody enjoy SmackDown. We'll see you next week. It's a double dose of 83 weeks, your regularly scheduled programming, and a WrestleMania extravaganza. Stay tuned to 83weeks.com.